Hello and welcome to this week's news desk. We're a little bit late this week, but nonetheless we're here with the latest roundup from news in women's sports from around the world. And this is season 4, episode 32. We're recording on August the 25th, and Nancy is back with me, Chris Stafford. Nancy Gillen is in London, having had a bit of a holiday, a bit of a break after all the summer excitement, Nancy.
Yeah, I went to over to Norway for a little bit. I saw one of my friends over there who plays football over there, so that was really fun. I went to watch one of their matches. It's really interesting because they play indoors, which I've never been in an indoor like football venue, like where it's like a professional team playing. So that was really interesting, and yeah, just had a bit, like came off. Had a bit of a break from work and social media and stuff, which is nice. Have come back feeling refreshed.
Good. All right, recharge the batteries.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to the football season, which is going to kick off fairly soon too. So we've got a lot of football news. We always do have. Over here, the USWNT has just announced its roster because they're starting some friendlies over, some September friendlies, Nancy. And you've got a new roster for your World Cup qualifiers and a couple of retirements and some injuries as well. So why don't you bring us up to date?
Yeah, so while I was away, there were 2 pretty major retirements from women's football in general, so not even just international football. So Ellen White, who is England women's all-time top goal scorer, announced her retirement, and then 24 hours later, Jill Scott, who I think is the second most England caps of all time, she then announced her retirement as well. So I don't think massively surprising. I think maybe Ellen White for me was a bit more surprising just because she had started every game for England, and she's a bit younger than Jill Scott. So I think she had more potential to go on and potentially be in the squad for the World Cup next year, but she obviously decided to go out on a high. And then, I think Jill Scott's was pretty much expected, really. I think I would very much doubt that she would have been in the World Cup squad next year. She had kind of been on loan at clubs in the Women's Super League for the past couple of seasons, and I don't think she'd found a new club necessarily, or even if she wanted to. But again, probably really amazing to end your retirement with, winning the Euros. I think that's partly the reason they've both decided to stop playing.
Do you know what they're going to do?
No. So Jill Scott has talked a bit about it. She said that she's not going to stay away from football. So she's going to be involved in some capacity. So either that's, I think coaching, I think is what she wants to go into. But then she's obviously quite media friendly as well. She's very personable. So I feel like she might also maybe be doing a bit of media stuff. Ellen White hasn't really spoken much about it, but I'm sure we'll find out soon what she's going to go into.
Okay, so you've got some changes to the roster. Obviously, the games ahead and leading up to World Cup are going to look differently. The squad's going to look different. There's a time of changes as well with the injuries that you've got for these upcoming qualifiers. And and sorry, lost my train of thought. So with the qualifier, you've got qualifiers, we've got friendlies, and I think, and Serena Wiegman, how long is her contract? I'm curious as to how long she's contracted. Is she contracted through the Olympics?
I think it's 2024. Okay. So I don't know when in 2024 that is. So whether that's after the Olympics or before, I'm not 100% sure. But I'm pretty sure they will want to renew it. But yeah, I'm not sure if it lasted before or after.
Yeah, she's definitely a keeper. And Jordan Nobbs is back after her ACL injury.
Yes, she is. So, it wasn't the ACL that kept her out of England with the Euros, because she just strained some knee ligaments in April, I think it was. So that's the exact injury that kept her out of the Euros. But yeah, I'm sure it's kind of just general recovery from the ACL. And yeah, it's really, really great to see her back in the squad. I think with Jill Scott going, it opens a quite a big space in the midfield for Nobbs. And, it's more a case of injury, really, why Nobbs hasn't really had the chance to shine that much for England at an international level. She's just been incredibly unfortunate. It seems like every major tournament she either gets injured before or injured during, so doesn't really play that much. So hopefully she has a really good season, really injury-free season for Arsenal, can get herself into the squad and feature for England at the World Cup next year. I think that'd be great to see, because her potential is massive. She is such a good player, and she is kind of coming towards not. She's still got probably like 4 or 5 years in her, but in terms of international tournaments, she hasn't got too many opportunities to kind of really shine for England. So I'm hoping she manages to stay fit. And starting with these qualifiers at the start of September, hopefully she can impress Serena.
Yeah, it'll be here before you know it. We're next week, we're getting to the end of the month, so we're already talking September. But going back to the US roster, they've just brought in Kansas City current defender Hayley Mace, who's been on the squad before, and she's replacing Washington Spirit's Kelly O'Hara, who's got a bit of a hip niggle, and I remember she's had that before, but apparently she needs a bit more rest. So so we've got an interesting lineup we've got some new players coming on. We've got Sam Coffey from the Portland Thorns. She's come back in as a midfielder, and then we've got, of course, all the old names. Listen to me, that are already on there that we've seen before. So I think we've got a tremendous breadth, we really have, for our squad. It'll be very interesting. I don't know whether Becky's going to be our captain still. I can't see why they would change that, but. Yeah, we've got a tremendous squad. I mean, it'll be interesting to see who we send to the UK in October, isn't it? October the 7th, when we play the Lionesses. That game's a win-win for me.
Yeah, you can't, or you're always going to be supporting a winning team.
I really am, yeah. So those games are coming up. The friendlies over here, and the qualifiers for World Cup in England as well. But before we finish on this, on the football conversation, I wanted to just mention, as I did you offline, Nancy, about the ticket price difference. The friendly we're playing against Nigeria at the Audi Field in Washington, which is one of Washington Spirit's venues. Those ticket prices start at $150, which I calculated was £126.88. And your qualifier the World Cup qualifier against Luxembourg at Stoke City ground was £15 sterling, which is $17 and change. That's an incredible difference.
Yeah, it is massive. And I think, I've never really seen a football match that is that much money, whether, men's Premier League, women's, the Euros was only like £15 a ticket. The women's Euros when it was here, it is an astonishing amount of money. And maybe you could argue that potentially that England qualifier is a bit too cheap. That's still, far off what they're charging for the US match. And it's just quite, obviously it just stops some people that can't afford that from going to the match, which is a massive shame.
It's very restrictive. It's a great shame. And how are we going to get more bums on seats if they keep those, prices up? And they start at $150. I mean, no, I'm not going. I'm going to watch it on TV. Because, to pay those kind of ticket prices, you're going to be up in the gods, in the ear-popping section. It's a very big stadium with very tall, very steep tribunes. I'd need binoculars to see the ball. So, I'm going to watch it on TV, get up close. But, that's a big difference. And I don't know why. I mean, it's a big stadium, and it was an expensive stadium and so on. And it was a very different ground to Stoke City, isn't it? But how many do you think Stoke City could take there?
I think it's probably like 40,000 capacity.
Do you expect that to be sold out?
Yeah, I think it is actually. I think it is now. It probably definitely wouldn't have been before England won the Euros, but now with kind of everyone wanting to see the team play, I think it either is or very close to being sold out.
Let's just turn to a story you've got about Barca to play Champions League games at Camp Nou. Tell us about that. This is Barcelona, of course.
Yep. So they obviously everyone knows kind of the big women's Champions League games. Barca played at Camp Nou last season, which the first against Real Madrid was world record attendance for a women's football match, and then they played against Wolfsburg a few weeks later and broke the world record again. So kind of really iconic events at the stadium now. And the director of women's football at Barcelona, Javier Pugh, has confirmed that the team will now play all of their women's Champions League games at the stadium. So that's including the group stage matches as well. So yeah, that's just really, really good news. Obviously, I'm not sure if it's going to be the group stage matches, at least if they're going to be, bringing in 90,000 people, but it's still such a massive stadium. To get as many people as possible to watch their matches is really good. And I'm sure as they progress, if they progress into the knockout stages, they'll be playing some of the biggest teams in Europe, and those matches could definitely attract, those record attendances again. So yeah, really, really exciting, and a great chance for, I guess, just women's football fans to get over to Barca and watch a women's football team play at the Camp Nou.
Yeah, then there are over 91,000 crowd, which is fantastic. And I'm curious as to how much the tickets would be for that. Do you have any idea? What, just to go to a regular game, Champions League game with them?
I don't think. Well, I remember from going to the Real Madrid game last year, it was very, very cheap. It was something like €9. So I can't imagine it being much more expensive than that. It was, an absolute bargain, really.
Wow. Yeah. I think we need to start a crusade here, don't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. The US is over the top here. Well, I mentioned that we're getting into September very quickly because next week, of course, is the start of the US Open Tennis Championships here in Flushing Meadows, New York. That's August the 29th when that starts. Nancy, have you seen the rankings right now? We've still got Iga, your favorite player, Iga Swiatek, is still at number one. They haven't changed much, actually, in the top 10. There's been a bit of movement. A couple of players have moved up. Well, one's moved up, one is down. Sabalenka's moved up and Halep's moved down. That's about it in the top 10. Is your money on Iga Swiatek again for this?
I'm not sure personally. I think she hasn't looked as dominant post Wimbledon as she did at the start of the year. I think maybe she could be a bit more. I think she looks more beatable than she did at the start of the year. But that's definitely not to rule her out. And she's world number one for a reason. But yeah, I think the US Open is always interesting, and normally it seems to be the Grand Slam that has the most kind of unexpected winners. So obviously, Raducanu winning last year and people like Andreescu. I never like to predict the US Open because it always feels like I get it wrong. But yeah, I think there's quite a few interesting people who to watch out for. I think
you mentioned Emma Raducanu, and I don't know if you've noticed, but she's moved up a couple of spots. She's almost in the top 10 now, and she's been playing particularly well. But there's been commentary about her finding her form again, her US Open 2021 form again. Yeah,
I think. She had quite a good run at the Cincinnati Open, considering who she was playing. So she beat Serena Williams quite comfortably, although Serena did look a bit injured. And then she beat Azarenka in 2 sets as well. So that was quite impressive. I think, again, it would be a miracle, I think, if she was to win, just because of the caliber of the players against her. But at this point, she has come full circle. Like, I remember reading an interview with her where it said, it's her first time on the tour. So every time she's going to a tournament, she doesn't know where she's going. She doesn't know the routines. She doesn't know where the changing rooms are, just stuff like that. But now she's done a year on the WTA tour. She knows this tournament. She's defending champion. she does seem to be playing a bit better. So I suppose you couldn't fully rule her out. I think Simona Halep is quite an interesting one. She's got Serena Williams' old coach and is getting back up the world rankings at the moment. So I think she's one to watch. And then the two Americans as well, who are round about the top 15, Jessica Pegula, who's world number 8, and Coco Gauff as well, who reached the final of the French Open. She's definitely really pushing for a Grand Slam title. So I think they're two people that with the home crowd could probably do quite well.
Yeah, as could Danielle Collins and Madison Keys too. Being American, they'll have the home team behind them. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if how far Emma can go. That will be, I think, the question: how far she can go in these championships.
Yeah, and I think she'd be happy, to be honest, to win 3 or 4 matches and get quite deep in. I don't think she will be expecting herself to be able to defend her title, but I think she will want to get a good run and give a title defence like her absolute best shot.
Yeah. It's been interesting how she's handling the pressure, but she seems to me like she wouldn't want to put that kind of pressure on herself, because it's not necessary. She's so early in her career. Who would expect her to win 2 years running right now with, as you say, the caliber of players that she's up against? So.
Yeah, and I think that is the best way to look at it, to just think, what she did last year was absolutely remarkable, very unexpected, and probably won't be replicated again for quite a while. So she's already done incredibly. So just to go in and enjoy it, I think the fact that she's defending champion is already incredibly impressive in itself.
Yeah. Well, mentioning the US Open, of course, I saw that story on Eurosport that you sent me about the different balls that women are playing with than men. And Iga Swiatek, she was slamming horrible US Open tennis ball rules. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, this is quite an interesting one. So the US Open used different tennis balls for the women's and the men's tournament. It's the only Grand Slam where there's 2 different types of balls used. So the women use lighter balls. I'm not really sure what the history is behind that. I think it's probably rooted a little bit in sexism and the idea that women will find it harder or have less power to serve. So the lighter balls helps that. But the fact that they use lighter balls is a disadvantage to the harder hitting players, because I think they're quite, they obviously go everywhere. They're quite unpredictable. I think especially when you play with different balls for most of the WTA Tour as well, and then you've got to use different ones at the US Open. I think it's obviously a bit of a disadvantage. Iga Swiatek has said she herself feels it's really hard to control them, and that she thinks women are now physically well prepared enough to be able to use the same balls as the men. And yeah, just kind of had a bit of a run about that. But yeah, she said, I think those balls are horrible, especially after 3 games of really hard playing. They're getting more and more light. At the end, you can't even serve at 170 kilometers an hour because it's going to fly like crazy. I think they're pretty bad. And I remember as well, I think it was at the start of the year, I saw comments from Ashley Barty's old coach, who said that Barty, if she had to continue, wouldn't have won at the US Open because she also struggled with the light balls as well. So it's obviously something that's discussed quite a lot in women's tennis. And yeah, I mean, obviously it kind of, probably some players absolutely love it because it suits their style of play. So, but
why is this coming out now though, Nancy? Because this is not a new thing, but it's only just made headlines.
To be honest, I don't know, really. I don't know if there's just more not scrutiny, but, when female tennis players say stuff, maybe they're just given more attention than they were in the past. To be honest, I really don't know. I guess it's because it's the world number 1 saying it as well. Maybe the players that have said it before have been kind of lowered down so that they have less of a spotlight on them. I'm not really sure, to be honest.
All right. Well, I'm sure that conversation will continue next week, so we'll bring you an update if anything changes. All right, we're going to move on now to some Formula One. Just when we thought that there's going to be a female driver racing in Formula One pretty soon, the way the girls are going, there's an opinion that says otherwise from the Formula One chief. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this is from Stefano Domenicali, who is the Formula One president. He said that he doesn't expect a woman to race at the top level of Formula One in the next 5 years. He said, realistically speaking, unless there is something like a meteorite, I don't see a girl coming into F1 in the next 5 years, and it was very unlikely. But he did say that F1 were totally dedicated to giving the best chance for women to compete in F1. He said that they were working to see what they could do to improve the system. He also talked about the W Series as well, and he did praise that. But he said for women to be competing in F1, they will have to start on the F2 and F3 levels at the same time as the men are, so when they're a lot younger. So I think it's the case that, by the time the women have been competing in the W Series and then go up into F2 and F3, they're quite a bit older than the people they're competing against. And I suppose then there's less time for them to progress and compete at the highest level compared to, the younger men that are, work their way up as they get older.
Well, I find it interesting. Jamie Chadwick is someone we talk a lot about on the show here. She's a 2-time W Series champion and always up there in the rankings. And very visible on social media. And she was quoted as saying, without power steering and driving big, heavier cars, a lot of women do struggle, even though they have been successful in go-karting. And apparently, power steering is in Formula One, but not in Formula 2 and 3.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I don't know. I mean, kind of with that, I think I'd want to see it, because I think in the past there's always, in every sport, that's kind of been given as, and I know obviously I don't want to argue with Jamie Chadwick because she knows way more about it than me, but I feel like what concerns about physical demands has been a reason or an excuse for why women can't compete at the top level. I'd like to see a woman compete at that level and see if that's necessarily true. And I think something as well is probably if you're at F1 and you're getting paid absolutely loads and you've got so much more resources than the women at W Series, then that's when you can start having the support and the training and the nutrition that would get you that physically strong to be able to, use the power, deal with the power steering. It's the same with the argument I think about like female goalkeepers in women's football, and like there was always criticism about it, but it's because they didn't have full-time training and they weren't, taught how to be as good goalkeepers. And now they've got the full-time training, we've seen goalkeeping in women's football improve massively. So I don't know if the same would happen in Formula Sport, motorsport, where if the women are given more, opportunity to get physically stronger and physically prepared for Formula One than they would be able to. So I guess it would be a case of, a woman going to that level and seeing if she could handle it or not, because at the moment we just don't really know for sure because they're not even getting the chance to do that.
No, it's a little bit, that imbalance is like the tennis ball, the difference in the weights of tennis ball, then, it's a case of Formula One equivalent, right? Power steering or no power steering.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's, very similar to that. It's, I think you just got to give women the chance to prove whether they can do it or not, before a decision on that is made.
Yeah, because you look at fitness generally in female athletes now in all kinds of sports, and it's just improved exponentially. It's incredible level of fitness now. I envy them so much because they're so super fit and stronger, and just keep improving. Right, this is an upward trend.
And there's still stuff as well that they're still researching, like menstrual cycle. Like if once we know more information and research about that, potentially, once women are able to handle and harness their menstrual cycle, elite athletes, that could give women in sport even more of an edge, even improve their fitness even more. So there's still a lot of progress to be made in that area as well. So, like you said, I think continuously progressing with that.
Yeah, for sure. I want to, before we finish, because you were away, we're late recording this week, and in the meanwhile, what happened was yet another major athletic championship. The Europeans took place in this month from the 15th to the 21st of August. And it just seems so much to put on these world-class athletes, Nancy. You know, they had the World Championships, then the Commonwealth Games, if they were from a Commonwealth country, and then the European Championships. That's an awful lot. I don't know how many. I didn't see how many athletes did all three or did two of three, or how, they selected themselves even by virtue of like this 3 is too much or 2 is too much, or, how they chose those. Did you get any feeling over there? Was there much conversation about that? I mean, because of COVID, of course, we've got these 3 major championships in 1 year. That is huge.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely out of the 3 that happened, was probably the one that maybe it was because I was away, but it was definitely the one that I think got the least coverage and was kind of paid attention to the least. I think it was it was so back to back as well, literally one after the other. I think there was absolutely no space in between whatsoever. I mean, the athletes that competed on all of them must have just been knackered.
That's an English term for exhausted.
Sorry, exhausted, tired. Yeah, must be very tired. I think maybe there was a bit of burnout for athletics fans. And
that took place in Munich, we should point out. That was in Munich. And that would have been planned a long time ago. I just don't know how, they didn't manage to give a little bit more distance between those 3 championships, spread them out a little bit more. But hey ho, that's a big year. I'm sure there's a lot of athletes right now taking quite a long rest before the winter season.
Yeah, a big holiday. They deserve it.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else this week, Nancy?
I don't think there's anything else from me. I've obviously been away, so kind of catching up on everything, but I think we've covered pretty much everything there. Looking forward to the US Open starting on Monday. Yeah,
it is indeed. And then we've got, as I say, the friendlies in football over here in September next month, and again in England the qualifiers for the World Cup. It shouldn't be a problem with the Lionesses being on the kind of form they're on. That should be a walk in the park for them, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's they need 1 point to secure qualification, and with Austria's a hard team, but then Luxembourg, no disrespect to them, I would be surprised if England didn't win. So yeah, you'd expect them to qualify for the World Cup in the next week.
Can I just mention Lucy Bronze before we go? Because I talked about her during the year as being the most fit player I saw on that squad. I think you'd agree with me on that. She's now playing for Barcelona, and she seems to have been settling in rather well there. She scored, didn't she, the other day?
Yeah, she did. Yeah, pretty impressive, I think, to go into a team like Barcelona and slot in straight away. So, I'm excited to see how she does with them this season.
All right. Well, more of that to come. Of course, more from the WSL. That season starts when, Nancy, over there?
So the 10th of September is the opening match, and then the 11th is Man U Tottenham, which is that opening match, and then the majority of the rest of the fixtures are on the 11th. So yeah, that weekend, I think it's a week and a half away now. 2 weeks and a half. I don't know. Time is. I don't know. But yeah.
You really shouldn't go on holiday. You know this.
Yeah, I know.
Completely screw up your sports calendar, your cycle. You lose track of time.
Yeah. But yeah, the 10th and 11th of September, however long away that is, apparently, I don't know. But yeah.
All right, Nancy. Well, thanks for that. Now that you're back from holiday and it's getting into the fall season, the autumn season over there, and better temperatures, are you going to start running again?
Yes, I hope to. I need to get some new running shoes because mine are getting pretty old, and going to try and look for an event that I can do in maybe like February time and have that as a motivation to run over the winter.
Yeah, great. And another marathon in the spring?
Maybe a half marathon, maybe not a marathon, but we'll see.
Okay, all right. Meanwhile, I keep cycling over here. Training is now like 6 days a week. I try and take a day off, and looking forward to a long ride soon in the fall, before it gets too cold over here. More of that as it happens, and we will be catching up with Marcy Cornegay as well, who's on the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail, on the Amazon podcast. So she's going to be probably coming off that in mid-September, Nancy. She's probably finishing in mid-September. So
wow, not long left now.
Yeah. Not long, and now she gets a bit of a rest before I have to haul her onto a bicycle and do another bike ride with me.
But she must be buzzing for that, I think.
What's that?
I said she must be buzzing for that.
yeah, she's got it on her sights. Yeah, no, I'm not losing sight. She's not losing sight of it either. So, all right, well, more of that to come as it happens here. We'll have more news next week from around the world of women's sports. In the meanwhile, follow Nancy on social media at Nancy_Gillen on Twitter and Instagram, Nancy_Gillen_sports. And I write for Gimme Sport Women. So most of our stuff can be found on our website. Well, all of our stuff. And our Twitter handle is at GimmySportW. And we're, of course, at Wisp Sports on social media and at wispsports.com online. So from me, Chris Stafford, and Nancy Gillen in London, we'll be back next week with more. So until then, thank you for listening and enjoy your sport.